Formula One can be a really brutal sport at times. There has been many an occasion where a driver, through no fault of their own, has been forced out of a team with nowhere else left to turn. You only need to look at Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez, or even Carlos Sainz for three different examples of when a driver has been given no option but to walk away from a team, even if they are delivering the kind of results that you would never expect anyone to lose their seat over. But that was the reality that all of them found themselves in that moment, out of a job and forced to make way for another driver. That was the case for Ocon at Racing Point in 2018, the same for Perez at Racing Point also in 2020, and then for Sainz, he's had two occasions where he's been forced out to make way for another driver, both at Renault in 2018 and then again last year at Ferrari in 2024. But the good news for all of them is that they all managed to find a way back. And looking at the current grid, there could be another driver that could add their name to that list by the end of 2025 if things don't go to plan, because they are currently hovering very dangerously close to that predicament playing out, and that driver is Yuki Tsunoda. First of all, let me start by saying that Yuki really shouldn't be in this position. If you were to ask me which driver or drivers on the current grid didn't deserve to have a seat in Formula One or shouldn't be in Formula One, Yuki's name wouldn't even cross my mind. For starters, his 2024 season for me was his best season to date out of the four that he's already completed since he made his debut in 2021, even if you compare it to his rookie season, he actually scored less points than that 2021 campaign. But from a driving perspective, it was without doubt his most complete season yet. I mean, for one, his racing maturity has come on leaps and bounds from that rookie season, even if, okay, there was that flashpoint at the start of 2024 in Bahrain when he wasn't too happy with team orders being handed out that he had to obey. But apart from that, his temperament is so much better than 2021. Other than that, he both outscored and outperformed the two drivers that he came up against at Racing Bulls last season. One of them, of course, was Daniel Ricciardo, who, as we know, was a lot more experienced than Yuki and won multiple Grand Prix. And then the other driver, of course, was Liam Lawson, who, as we know now, is going to race for Red Bull in 2025. If you look at the stats, Tsunoda scored 22 points to Daniel's 12 when he was given the boot from Racing Bulls after Singapore. And then when Liam came in as his replacement, Yuki still managed to outscore him 8 points to 4. And better than that, he also outqualified him at all of the 6 races that they did together. And yet, despite doing everything that pretty much Red Bull required him to do, which is of course beat the driver whoever is alongside you in the junior team, Yuki was still overlooked for that Red Bull seat to replace Sergio Perez in favour of Lawson. That was a really tough pill for him to swallow, because Yuki has mentioned about how driving for Red Bull is his ultimate goal. And it really did feel like this was the right time for him to be given that shot in the Red Bull seats. Based off his performances last season, it really felt like now was the right time for him to be given that chance, because he'd well and truly earned it. And not forgetting, he also did an impressive test for Red Bull after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But time after time, we have seen that he is almost looked upon differently compared to other Red Bull juniors, for whatever reason that is. Red Bull hasn't really ever explained why this is, why Yuki isn't looked upon as someone who they could promote in the future. They've kind of alluded that it's his approach and his temperament, but without really ever saying it, I guess. So that means he's kind of stuck where he is at Racing Bulls, being used as a benchmark for other Red Bull juniors to come in and try and beat if they want a shot at the big time. And personally, I really don't think that that's a fair way for Yuki to be treated, because he cannot be the guinea pig in the junior team just year after year. He either has to be given a crack at Red Bull in the senior team, or he should be allowed to go and spread his wings and go and race someplace else. Just to rub more salt into the wounds, Christian Horner recently admitted that Red Bull would be kind of open to the idea of signing Carlos Sainz if he becomes available at some point in the near future. And that, in a way, kind of puts Yuki's situation into perspective, because Sainz is currently tied down at Williams on a multi-year contract, and yet it is still taking him into consideration for a seat in the future and kind of leaving Yuki out of it. And worse still for Yuki is that Helmut Marko is also talking about one of the other Red Bull juniors, who is Arvid Lindblad, who is a really talented young driver coming through the junior ranks, for a potential promotion to Formula One in 2026, which will likely be the Racing Bull seat if he impresses in his Formula 2 season this year. So that kind of means that a chance for Yuki to maybe stay with Racing Bulls for what would be a 6th campaign in 2026 is surely off the cards as well. So maybe Yuki's only real chance is if Lawson isn't hitting Red Bull's targets and delivering the kind of results that they expect from him by the middle of the season, let's say, that they may decide to swap both Yuki and Liam around to give Yuki a chance in that Red Bull seat, but let's be honest, the chances of that happening are either slim or none. The way that I see it is that Yuki's best option would be to leave Red Bull if he wants to prolong his career in Formula 1. But even if he takes that alternative route, there's still going to be a problem, and that is that there's still no guarantee that he would be able to land on his feet somewhere else. The obvious alternative for Yuki is of course Aston Martin, who will be switching to Honda engines for 2026, and as we know, Honda and Yuki are closely tied to one another, and Honda are also very keen to put a Japanese driver in the car for 2026. But the problem is that Alonso is contracted for that 2026 season, and we can go on all day about how Stroll in the second seat is pretty much secure until his dad says otherwise. Other than Aston, there's not really many options out there for Yuki, to be honest, but perhaps the Cadillac team that's going to be arriving in 2026 could be the answer to Yuki's problems. But the problem with that is that there's a lot of competition for both of those seats. We know that Perez and Bottas, for example, who of course won't be on the grid in 2025, have been linked to one of those seats, and it's likely that the other seats will be filled by an American driver. So on the face of it, it does seem that Yuki should be prepared to spend 2026 on the sidelines, which does seem harsh, but like I said, F1 can really be brutal at times, even when you least expect it. So hopefully for Yuki's sake, he will still be on the grid, and who knows, maybe in a Red Bull. Stranger things have happened. But referring back to Ocon, Perez and Sainz like I did at the start of the video, even if Yuki is pushed out of Formula 1, they all prove that there is always a way back, so maybe Yuki's future is not as bleak as it sounds. So there you have it, that's it for today's video. Don't forget, as always, to like the video, and if you are new around here, to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.